TV Crazy Man here. In this video, we go on the hunt for the history of Elmer Fudd.
But it doesn't mean a thing when so terrifically I swing.
What's the deal with that fat Elmer, anyway, and red-nosed Elmer? Just what was the line of progression for Elmer? What about Elmer's voice and speech pattern?
Hello. Sorry I had to plug you.
Who voiced Elmer in the early years? And what was the deal with taking Elmer's hunting rifle away?
Be very, very quiet. I'm hunting rabbits.
Yeah, no we're not, Doc.
We're hunting Elmer's.
Rabbits, 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 rabbits!
According to my research, some historians think that Elmer evolved from a character Tex Avery created in 1937 named Egghead from the cartoon Egghead Rides Again. Others, like animation historian Michael Barrier, don't believe that Egghead had anything to do with Elmer Fudd. Well, except for the fact that they were both created by Tex Avery. And the early version of Elmer looked a lot like Egghead. No wait, that's the one from Batman.
Explain.
This one is Tex Avery's Egghead.
I'm exhausted.
Is this an attempt to degrade the human egg-shaped community? If so, I find this segment very offensive. But it was also in 1937 that Tex Avery created a very early version of Elmer Fudd that can be directly linked to the Elmer we know today. This early version was introduced in Little Red Walking Hood, has a mysterious hero whistling everywhere he goes. In the 1938 cartoon A Feud There Was, we can see the name Elmer Fudd written on this version's motor scooter. On this short, the king of the cowboys himself, Roy Rogers, did Elmer singing. But Mel Blanc did his talking voice.
I said we must have peace.
Elmer's voice was definitely not there yet. No overuse of the W sound or anything like that. Blanc would be called upon to do Elmer's voice here and there, especially when there wasn't much speaking for the character to do in a short. And this was even after Elmer got his regular voice with Arthur Q. Bryan. Before audiences heard Arthur Q. Bryan's Elmer voice coming out of Elmer Fudd, they heard it strangely enough from the 1939 cartoon Dangerous Dan McFoo from a dog.
Hello.
By 1940, in a short Elmer's Candid Camera, everything was coming together for Elmer. He was recognizable now, even though he's basically wearing the same kind of clothing from his early pictures. Now he's finally got the wascally wabbit chasing voice provided by Arthur Q. Bryan.
Golly, that sounds simple enough.
This has an early version of Bugs Bunny who doesn't quite look like the rabbit we are used to, and he sounds more like Woody Woodpecker than his usual self.
All right, then.
In this particular cartoon, Elmer tracks Bugs to shoot his picture, not to shoot at him. This cartoon was actually directed by Chuck Jones, who strangely enough wasn't very happy with the way it turned out. He just wasn't very pleased with this early version of Bugs Bunny.
Guns, rabbit traps, cowards, rabbits, rabbits, rabbits!
A couple of months later, A Wild Hare was released in July of 1940. It was directed by Tex Avery. It features Elmer in the now familiar full hunting gear, but with a red nose. Here Bugs Bunny has the familiar big city New York accent that we're all accustomed to.
To show you I'm a sport, I'll give you a good shot at me.
In 1940, Elmer starred in his very own animated short entitled Goodnight Elmer. He's back wearing his derby hat, even the bed. But here he is at least without the red nose. This one was directed by Chuck Jones, but it has a bad rap with critics for being slow-paced. In Elmer's Pet Rabbit, released in 1941, Blanc isn't doing the New York Bugs accent he did in the last short. I guess they hadn't quite figured out which way to go yet. After Elmer's Pet Rabbit, Blanc would go back to that Brooklyn, New York sort of voice again that he used on The Wild Hare.
Listen, bub, be a little more careful who you call a widow gray rabbit.
Just a quick side note here, Mel Blanc and Arthur Q. Bryan are the only ones I saw listed with voice credits on this short, but to be honest, Bugs doesn't even sound like your typical Blanc voice at all here. But then, of course, Blanc could do 1,000 different voices. For a short time between 1941 and 1942, Elmer gained a lot of weight for 5 cartoons: Wabbit Twubble, The Wacky Wabbit, The Wabbit Who Came to Supper, Any Bonds Today, and Fresh Hair, in what appears to be an attempt to make Elmer look more like Arthur Q. Bryan's real-life appearance. Now, after this experiment, Elmer went on a crash diet and got back in the skinnier shape where he has stayed ever since. I see nothing at all wrong with a nice round shape. You know, eggs are very sensitive. They crack up so easily. So in order to talk like Elmer, you need to mispronounce consonants R and L and replace them with W. Tweety Bird also does this. And if you want to talk like TV Crazy Man, just mispronounce everything. Sadly, Arthur Q. Bryan died in 1959, but Elmer lived on thanks to the voice talents of Mel Blanc, Hal Smith, a.k.a. Otis from The Andy Griffith Show, Billy West, Frank Welker, Jeff Bergen, and others. Now fast forward to 2020, and Elmer Fudd ends up depicted without his trademark shotgun in the first season of the new Looney Tunes cartoons on the streaming service HBO Max. They did allow other forms of cartoon violence, some of which made little sense and were a lot more disturbing than Elmer's hunting rifle, like a giant machete that looks like it came out of a horror movie. I think they used the same old excuse, "We are reworking for a modern audience," which is code for "this is really gonna suck bad," and really doesn't go with the cool retro look of the show anyway.
I'm challenging you to an arm wrestling match, rabbit.
Coochie coochie coo. Ooh.
Yeah, that was the first season when arm wrestling replaced guns. But thankfully, by season 2, they had reinstated Elmer's rifle. The show tries to go way back to the roots of the Looney Tunes, even giving Elmer a red nose, and reinstating the original woo-hoo screaming Daffy that I honestly don't like as much as the greedy little black duck he became. Now, I have noticed that some of the shorts seem like bad episodes of Ren and Stimpy, leaning more towards shock value versus just pure comedy. But with all that negative stuff out of the way, I have to say there have been a few super hilarious shorts in there as well. One in particular featuring the Tasmanian Devil. I believe he was trying to get some water out of a coconut or something to that effect. I laughed so hard at that one that I'll put it up there with the greatest classic Looney Tunes shorts of all time. I'd probably put that one up there with the top 10 funniest cartoons ever. Taz is just the coolest. Now, I'm somewhere in the second season, so hopefully it'll just keep getting better. I also, I have to say that I appreciate the retro styling and the art for the most part. Just hope they stop doing the Ren and Stimpy stuff. Now, one more little bit of interesting trivia. Mel Blanc, of course, took over for Elmer's voice for the most part in the 70s and 80s, but he never felt like he actually got it right. Of course, perfectionists like Mel Blanc would probably say that about a lot of things. That's why he was so good. I'd like to invite you to watch my latest cartoon on my Freddy Cat Cartoons channel. Now, I grew up watching cartoons on Saturday mornings, as most kids that grew up in the 70s and 80s did, and my goal is to try and bring that same kind of family-friendly yet funny and silly style of animation back. So if you like cartoons, check out my latest and give it a like, maybe leave a comment. Let's bring back fun cartoons. Now, I also want to thank everyone that has subscribed to the TV Crazy Man channel. Thank you to everyone that's commented or hit the like button on any of my videos, including this one. I appreciate your support. Thanks again, and have a great day or evening, whatever the case may be.